Imagine, for just a second, that you are fighting this faceless, apocalyptic monster.
Right, like an absolute nightmare scenario.
Exactly. You are locked in a war that has dragged on for an entire century.
And we've been losing.
Yeah.
Badly.
Yeah. Humanity is on the brink. But then, an opportunity arises, you finally get your hands on their technology.
A turning point.
Right. You plug your mind directly into their alien computers, and you're desperately looking for a weakness or like a tactical schematic, anything to turn the tide.
A map of their bases, yeah.
But instead of that, you suddenly remember their childhood.
Man, it's just the ultimate psychological whiplash.
It really is.
You go in expecting cold, hard military data, and you just get hit with the crushing emotional weight of an entire species' history.
Well, welcome to this special Year 3000 Saturday follow-up deep dive. Now, for you listening, you probably already know the territory we've covered before.
Yeah, we've gone over the physical realities quite a bit.
Right. We've spent previous deep dives detailing the sheer brutality of the Great Descent. We've gone through the kinetic military technology.
The horrific realities of those coastal blood harvesting pods.
Ugh, yeah. And, of course, those massive human slave grids mining quartz for the pylons. So, we know the physical reality of the Abyssal War.
The war along the bathypelagic axis, yeah. The things humanity can actually touch, shoot at, and, well, hide from.
Exactly. But today, our mission is entirely different.
We're going internal today.
We are. We are strictly focused on a newly declassified archival log, specifically Section IX of Terra Bathysalis.
Which is just, it's mind-blowing material.
It really is. We are looking at the most mind-bending revelation of this whole century-long conflict. Like, what actually happens when human consciousness accidentally merges with alien technology?
Yeah, that intersection of minds.
We're going to explore the phenomenon of memory contagion, the deeper connection humanity forged with an entity known as Subject Zero, and the true, deeply tragic history of the invader's homeworld, Planet X.
Because, for the first time in 100 years, humanity isn't just fighting the Abyssals.
Right.
We are finally starting to understand the mechanics of their minds.
Yeah.
And what the archives reveal is terrifying.
Oh, absolutely terrifying.
Although not in the traditional monstrous sense we've been conditioned to expect,
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how human minds ended up intertwined with alien tech in the first place, we have to look at how these two wildly different species actually bridge the communication gap.
It definitely wasn't in some pristine military lab.
No, not at all. It happened in the absolute pitch-black, crushing depths of the Kermadec Trench.
Which is, we're talking 7,200 meters down.
Just a horrific environment.
Yeah, the environmental hostility at that depth really cannot be overstated. The water pressure is roughly 1,000 atmospheres.
Wow.
Yeah, that's enough to instantly turn a standard titanium hull into crushed foil.
So that sets the stage for Commander Maya Lin in the year 2978. She is operating this experimental Human Alliance microsubmersible, conducting deep reconnaissance along a known abyssal transit route.
Just her in the dark.
Exactly. And out of nowhere, a localized tectonic shift causes a massive structural failure in her craft.
Just the worst possible luck.
Seriously. Her ballast systems rupture entirely. She is pinned against the trench wall, literally thousands of meters out of range of any Human Alliance recovery fleet.
Nobody is coming to get her.
No one. Her life support is failing, and she is effectively buried alive in the freezing dark.
But then the darkness shifts.
Yeah.
A 100-foot abyssal bioship emerges from the trench floor.
The apex predators of the deep.
Exactly. These are the biomechanical nightmare engines that have been sinking human dreadnoughts for decades.
But instead of crushing her crippled sub or dragging her out to harvest her plasma like they usually do,
Right.
The elder caste entity inside this bioship does something completely unprecedented.
This is the entity later designated as Subject Zero.
Right. Yes. Human Alliance intelligence called it Subject Zero. So it halts its advance. It extends these massive bioluminescent tendrils around Lynn's failing craft.
Which had to be terrifying for her.
Oh, absolutely. But it establishes a continuous 14-hour resonance loop using exactly 470 nanometer blue-green light.
And Lynn's survival instinct kicks in brilliantly here.
She realizes it's not a weapon.
Exactly. She realizes the alien is communicating via high-frequency optical modulation.
Like Morse code, but with light.
Sort of, yeah. Basically, it's transmitting broadband data through complex patterns of light, much like our fiber optics, but, without the physical cable.
That's wild.
So with her oxygen dropping, she manually hotwires her sub's exterior floodlights to pulse back in the exact same 470 nanometer spectrum.
So they just engage in a literal 14-hour staring contest.
Yeah, desperately trying to map each other's syntax through light.
The mechanics of that exchange are incredible, but the psychological implications what I just keep getting stuck on.
How so?
Well, think about how you or I might look at a fragile little insect trapped inside a glass jar.
Okay, yeah.
We might be fascinated by it. We might even feel a bit of pity for its tiny, fragile biological limitations.
Yep.
But we never consider it our equal. So why would a 1,000-year-old apex predator stop to pity our single-brain, gas-breathing physiology instead of just tearing the sub open?
What's fascinating here is that this specific interaction shattered the foundational assumptions of the entire war.
Right, because up until then...
Exactly. For a century, the human alliance assumed the Abyssals were this monolithic, emotionless hive mind.
Just a swarm of empiric monsters operating on pure instinct.
Yes. But that 14-hour exchange yielded the very first decrypted lexicon of Abyssal optical language. And it proved they are a highly fractured caste hierarchy, they're bound by ancient necessity, and most importantly, they're capable of profound empathy.
Wow. Empathy.
Yeah. Subject Zero wasn't looking at Lynn with malice. It looked at her frail, gas-breathing body, trapped inside this broken metal can, fighting against 1,000 atmospheres of pressure. And it felt profound biological pity.
The monster felt sorry for her.
He did.
The translated concepts from Lynn's log are just haunting. Subject Zero transmitted ideas like fragile walkers of the dry surface.
Yeah.
It saw our single-threaded brains as ephemeral, completely untethered from what they call the deep resonance.
I saw how disconnected we are.
Right. It recognized the hopelessness of humanity fighting with broken metal against the sheer weight of the ocean, and it literally pitied how brightly we burn before we break under the pressure.
Which introduces a completely different kind of existential dread, if you think about it.
How do you mean?
Well, you realize the entity destroying your world doesn't hate you. It views you as a tragic, fragile, temporary anomaly.
Ouch. Yeah, that's rough.
But that 470 nanometer light pulse dictionary that Maya Lin managed to decode, that gave humanity a skeleton key.
Right, because now we had the language.
Exactly. The Human Alliance could finally build neurological interfaces to pilot captured alien bioships.
Which leads to the birth of the Xenotechnological Integration Program, XTI.
The XEI pilots, yes.
So the military figures out how to take these captured biological neural laces, the biosilicon nervous systems salvaged from downed alien ships.
Oh, hardware, right.
Yeah, and they wire them directly into human cybernetic operators. They use a piece of hardware called a synthetic synaptic attenuator.
Now, the attenuator is attempting the ultimate biological hack.
It sounds super dangerous.
Oh, it is. It bridges a human central nervous system, which operates out of a highly localized processor, our brain,
right,
to an alien system that operates on a decentralized quantum processing ring.
Because they don't have a bridge, do they?
No, the Abyssal ships don't have a singular bridge or a main computer. They have trillions of neural clusters scattered across their connective tissue, all woven with biosilicon threads. It's like trying to run an entire global cloud computing network through a vintage 1990s desktop computer.
Just way too much data for our hardware.
Exactly. The human hardware isn't built for that kind of decentralized parallel processing.
So to bridge that gap, the brain essentially hallucinates, right?
It has to make sense of it all.
Because this alien technology relies on quantum molecular silicon, or QMS, it doesn't process data like a traditional human hard drive. It actually retains the quantum state memory of its former alien pilots.
The memory is baked right into the ship.
Yeah. The architecture of the machine itself is altered by the thoughts of whoever drove it last.
Which leads to the side effects.
Right. So when human XTI operators plug in, they suffer from this terrifying psychological condition the military calls memory contagion, or xenoamnesia.
But the pilots just call it the bleed.
The bleed, yeah.
The line between human consciousness and alien memory completely dissolves.
It's like they're merging.
Exactly. The synaptic attenuators are converting those alien light pulses into binary neural signals. But the emotional and physical context remains embedded in the silicon.
So the human brain is just trying to make sense of alien emotions.
Yeah, the human brain is incredibly neuroplastic, so it tries to synthesize this impossible data by physically mapping it onto its own perception.
The specific symptoms logged by these pilots are deeply unsettling. I mean, first, there's the multi-threaded spatial
Oh,
awareness.
that's a wild one.
Yeah, when a pilot plugs into the biosilicon, they aren't looking out a cockpit window.
Right, because there is no window.
Exactly. The ship is an extension of the alien's own body, so the human brain is tricked into thinking it is suddenly 30 meters wide, equipped with a dozen hydropropulsive tentacles.
Just completely losing their human form.
Right. They experience full 360-degree bioluminescent vision. They can physically feel temperature shifts in the water, and they map pressure gradients around the hull as if the metal were their own skin.
And the psychological displacement is severe. I mean, pilots report the sensation of breathing liquid silicon.
Ugh, that sounds awful.
Yeah, their autonomic nervous system gets confused by the memory of gills filtering these heavy, hyperoxygenated fluids.
Okay, wait, let me push back on the physical sensations here, though.
Sure.
Because the logs mention that these human pilots actually feel comforted by the crushing weight of 1,000 bar pressure once they unplug,
Yeah, they do.
and they start developing a severe aversion to dry air and sunlight.
Which is so counterintuitive.
Exactly. How does a human mind not permanently snap from that kind of sensory contradiction? I mean, a human body would be pulverized by that pressure, but their brain literally craves it.
Well, it all comes down to that neuroplasticity we discussed. The human brain is adapting to the quantum memory of the technology just in order to survive the interface.
Right, it's the survival mechanism.
While they're plugged in, they aren't just driving a captured ship.
Hmm.
Biologically and psychologically, they are temporarily becoming the alien.
They are the alien.
Yes. And to the memory they are wearing, that immense deep-sea pressure is the only thing keeping their internal organs from boiling and exploding outward.
Oh, wow. So they need the pressure.
The human brain internalizes that survival parameter. So when the pilot unplugs and returns to surface pressure, they feel exposed.
Like they're in danger.
Yeah, they feel vulnerable, as if they are constantly on the verge of explosive decompression.
They are carrying the physical trauma of an entire alien species.
They really are.
And that carries over into the most devastating part of the bleed, which is the inherited grief.
That's the part that really sticks with you.
Yeah. The pilots start absorbing the emotional memory of a profound, lingering sorrow that permeates every strand of the biosilicon.
It's just baked into the ship.
Right. And for a long time, human alliance scientists thought this was just random alien the psychological equivalent of a microphone feeding back on itself.
But it wasn't. By neurologically mapping the brains of these XTI pilots suffering from the bleed, they discovered the grief wasn't static at all.
It meant something.
It was a highly specific, shared historical archive. It was a map.
A map to where?
Tracing that map forced humanity to look way out into the dark, far beyond the oceanic trenches, toward the true origin point of the abyssal species.
Yeah, we have to talk about Planet X.
The homeworld.
The memories revealed this icy super-Earth sitting way out in the outer Oort cloud, like on the absolute fringes of our solar system.
It's so far away.
And the abyssal species evolved there, living in a pitch-black subsurface global ocean trapped beneath 50 kilometers of solid ice.
Just incredible.
The only thing keeping their civilization from freezing completely solid were their internal geothermal core reactors, which surprisingly were powered by the very same quantum molecular silicon they use in their bioships.
So it was a completely closed-loop ecosystem of extreme pressure and geothermal warmth.
Yeah.
They built a perfectly balanced and deeply isolated world out there in the dark.
Until they didn't.
Right, because exactly 500,000 years ago, that delicate equilibrium was completely shattered by an astronomical anomaly.
The Oort cataclysm.
Yes. A rogue brown dwarf star traversed the outer edge of the Oort cloud.
Just passed right by.
Yeah, and the gravitational shear from that massive object was so immense that it completely disrupted Planet X's orbit.
Oh, man.
The tidal forces physically fractured the planet's 50-kilometer-thick icy crust, and that exposed their subterranean ocean to the vacuum of space.
That's horrifying.
The planet's core temperatures plummeted in a matter of days. Their entire world began freezing over from the top down.
So, facing total immediate extinction, they engineered the very first 100-foot biomechanical bioship.
3 arcs.
Right, these massive living arcs designed to preserve whatever fragments of their species they could save. They broke through the freezing ice and fled into the void.
Just drifting.
Yeah, they drifted inward toward our sun for 500,000 years, living generation after generation in the dark, just watching their technology slowly degrade.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it completely recontextualizes their violent arrival on Earth in the late 29th century.
It changes everything.
It really does. For decades, human strategists assumed the Abyssals bypassed our continents and plunged straight into the Challenger Deep of the Mariana Trench because, they wanted to conquer us from the shadows.
Or establish an unassailable beachhead, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the truth, pulled directly from the pilots' inherited memories, is purely physical. They didn't want our land.
They fundamentally couldn't survive on it.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The revelation that the Abyssal invasion wasn't some grand, malicious ideological conquest.
Not at all.
It was an act of desperate, uncoordinated survival. They didn't choose the abyss because they are sinister monsters. They chose it because the 6 miles of water above them provides the exact hydrostatic counterpressure required to keep their QMS biology stable.
Their bodies and their technology evolved under immense pressure.
Right. If they came up to the surface without those heavy bioship hulls, the lack of atmospheric pressure would cause their internal fluids to boil.
Just instantaneous explosive decompression. They're grieving, traumatized refugees hiding in the only habitable pressure cooker they could find in the solar system.
It's the ultimate paradigm shift.
It really is. Humanity spent a century demonizing an enemy, fighting a war of extermination, only to find out the invaders are running from an apocalypse, just like we are.
And understanding that desperation actually explains the most horrific aspect of the entire war. The blood farms.
Yeah, this part is grim.
The coastal processing pods. I mean, the human alliance has lost millions of people to these hypobaric chambers, where the abyssals harvest our red blood cells.
Just harvesting us like crops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And up until the archival logs were decrypted, everyone assumed they were just vampiric by nature, sustaining themselves on human misery.
Right, because why else would they do it?
But the memories from the bleed revealed the actual mechanics behind the horror, the biological desperation.
Because the only reason they are harvesting human blood is because their own artificial protein synthesizers suffered a catastrophic failure during their millennia-long transit through the solar system.
It just broke down.
Exactly. They arrived in our oceans with a broken food supply and a completely degrading biosilicon infrastructure.
And human blood patches that degradation.
Precisely. Hemoglobin contains very high concentrations of iron and oxygen.
Right.
For a silicon-based species relying on deep-sea geothermal energy, human hemoglobin acts as an incredibly dense psychoactive vector.
So it's basically fuel.
Yeah, the iron conducts their neural signals, which bridges the failing biosilicon pathways in their ships, while the oxygen chemically stabilizes their quantum silicon reactors.
Wow.
It wasn't their first choice of fuel. It was simply the only organic compound on Earth dense enough to keep their hive mind intact after their own synthesizers died.
So the century of absolute horror humanity has endured is essentially the result of broken alien supply chain logistics.
Yes, just broken logistics.
Which completely shatters the operational framework for Human Alliance High Command.
Oh, it tore them apart.
I mean, if the military knows the enemy isn't driven by conquest, but by failing logistics and sheer desperation, how do they proceed?
That is the question.
It has sparked a massive factional debate in the year 3000, literally tearing the alliance apart from the inside.
Yeah, because you have the military traditionalists holding one side of the line.
The guys who have been fighting for a century.
Exactly. They've been fighting a brutal kinetic war for 100 years. They want to activate Project Tiamat.
Which is terrifying in its own right.
Right. Tiamat is this high-risk, scorched earth plan to deploy self-replicating biosynthetic enzymes directly into the oceanic subduction zones.
To just dissolve the city.
Literally melt the alien megacity of Arli Prime. Melt their deep-sea silicon pylons into sludge and end the war in one stroke, even if it risks irreversibly destroying Earth's oceanic chemistry and wiping out most marine life in the process.
Total annihilation.
Total annihilation, yes.
But on the other side, you have the exolinguistics faction, a movement largely spearheaded by the legacy of Commander Maya Lin.
Right, the diplomats,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, and they argue that Project Tiamat is a suicide pact that will just leave Earth a barren rock. Instead, they point to the shared trauma unlocked by Subject Zero and the XTI pilots.
The empathy factor.
Exactly. They believe this psychological connection, this memory contagion, provides a non-kinetic lever to end the conflict.
They call it the Lin protocol.
Right.
And they are actively attempting to weaponize empathy.
Which sounds so contradictory.
It does. But using the XTI interfaces, they are broadcasting human art, philosophy, and, this is the dark part, the biometric feedback of the agonizing suffering happening inside the human blood farms.
So they're beaming our pain.
Directly down into the abyssal quantum networks.
Wow.
And the intelligence suggests it's actually working.
Really?
Yeah, the Human Alliance is recording measurable cognitive dissent among the lower caste alien pilots.
Oh, they're hesitating.
There is documented hesitation during coastal harvesting raids. The lower castes are starting to feel the exact same profound pity that Subject Zero felt for Commander Lin in the Kermadec Trench.
Man, this raises an important question for you, the listener. I mean, what are the ethics of the Lin protocol?
It's a huge ethical dilemma.
Even leaving aside the moral preachiness, strictly from a survival standpoint, is it justifiable to weaponize another species' capacity for empathy?
Right.
To forcibly beam the agonizing reality of our suffering directly into their collective minds in order to trigger a localized existential crisis?
Can shared trauma actually be used to force a leveraged surrender in a war that has claimed billions of lives?
So what does this all mean? We are looking at two species, both pushed to the absolute brink of extinction, locked in a stalemate where neither can physically survive in the other's environment.
It's a tragic deadlock.
Do we press the button on Project Tiamat and hope something survives the toxic fallout? Or do we bet the entire future of human civilization on the fragile hope that the monsters hiding in the dark are capable of feeling bad for us?
It fundamentally changes the equation of conflict.
It really does.
You realize that the enemy you've been fighting isn't a monolith of malice. It's a dark mirror of your own desperation.
Just trying to survive.
And when you finally understand the hidden history and the deep inherited trauma of your adversary, it forces you to ask yourself, are we still fighting out of pure necessity? Or are we now just fighting out of momentum, trapped in a tragic misunderstanding of biological needs?
That perspective shift is really the true legacy of the archives. It takes the faceless, unknowable horror of the abyss and just replaces it with the tragic, complicated reality of shared survival.
Shared survival, absolutely.
Well, let's bring this all together. We started this deep dive far down in the crushing depths of the Kermadec Trench, with Commander Mai Lin realizing the monster looking back at her was capable of profound pity.
Right.
We followed that thread into the minds of human XTI pilots who are literally mapping their brains to decentralized quantum networks, absorbing alien memories.
Feeling the crushing pressure of the deep ocean as a comfort.
And suffering the inherited grief of a frozen, lost world. That memory contagion revealed the ultimate truth. Humanity's greatest enemy isn't an army of conquerors.
No.
They are just a species of desperate refugees fleeing a shattered planet at the very edge of the solar system, desperately holding themselves together with broken tech and stolen human blood.
It forces us to confront the fact that the line between human and alien is biologically blurring.
Which leaves me with one final, very eerie thought that I want you to mull over tonight. We know that the human XTI pilots are permanently absorbing alien memories, taking on their multi-threaded spatial awareness and their ancient grief.
Right.
And we know that the alien biosilicon is actively adapting to interface with human neural pathways. So if we step back from the politics, the military strikes, and the factional debates, if we step back from all that.
Yeah, looking at the biology.
Are these two warring species actually destined to destroy each other? Or by continually plugging our minds directly into their biology, are we unknowingly merging? Are we slowly, inevitably becoming an entirely new hybrid species, one that finally belongs to both the sunlit dry land and the crushing pitch-black abyss?
A single consciousness, born from the wreckage of two apocalypses.
Exactly what we'll be watching for. Something to think about the next time you look out at the dark ocean. Until next time, stay curious.